felicitation function part of Sundar Fest. I meant to remark on this earlier. So this, the name Sundar Fest was suggested by Vaughan Jones. I wrote to Vaughan asking him whether he would come for Sundar's birthday and be a part of the celebration. So he said, yes, I'll certainly come for Sundar Fest. So then initially I just called it very unimaginatively Conference on Functional Analysis. So after Vaughan said Sundar Fest, I thought that would be good. So let me request Balu to say a few words.
I knew Sundar essentially from 79, which of course is not a correct statement. It is not a correct statement because of course we were together in TIFR in 1979 and when he was visiting TIFR, but I don't think we had much interaction. Therefore, I can't really say that I knew him that well. And I came to know him well only in 1995 when he joined here. And I was rather very happy that he would be joining us when I came to know that everything has gone through with a certain committee and he would be joining, particularly since little earlier there was, we have been trying to get him for a longer time and a little earlier there was a small fiasco and we could not get him. And then, therefore, once everything was finally done and he was joining, it was very nice. And of course, I know a few people who, at the time he was visiting Japan, I know a few who even at that time in Japan was dissuading him from joining here and so on, but still I am happy that Sundar has finally decided to join us and he has been a great asset to me personally, to the department and to the institution as a whole in more ways than one. And from the day he joined, he sort of took care of the department, took essentially all the important decisions in terms of the recruitment, in terms of promotions and things like that. And he would always be looking out for people who would be ready to join here and who are good enough to join. And then he would proceed with that. He would initiate all the things. And therefore, in some sense, this department today is this big is mainly due to Professor Sundar, who took all the initiative to take the decisions. And whenever he does that, even in that case, as well as when he was, of course, in the council member in the Indian Academy of Sciences, those times I have seen that whatever decisions and whichever cases he decides to support, how meticulously he has worked out all the details, knew everything about the person, and would have. Therefore, when he says something about the person, how good he is, etc., it is very difficult to contradict him, essentially because he would have done all his homework and he would have known everything about this person. And that carefulness I have not seen in many. And besides this academics, there were other activities also like this ICA, etc., which of course owe a lot to Professor Sundar. He was the one who made even many non-academic activities here to make this place lively and vibrant. And of course, every institute needs a few such people who would take such responsibilities, and Sundar was very willing to do that. And it's not that, of course, we did not have any difference of opinion on the various things. When you particularly, our main difference of opinion came when we want to constitute certain committee or something like that, and when I go and consult Sundar about who could be the member of these committees, his first choice would always be younger people. And then I would say that, with these younger people, I would not be able to convince the authorities to have a committee. They would definitely like the senior people, etc. And Sundar would take none of those things. He says that the senior people have ruled enough. It is better that the younger people do take the responsibilities and so on. And those are the things where we had certain times of difference of opinions. And but anyway, he has never shown it. And in fact, I am sort of fortunate to have most of my friends who, if I have to have a difference of opinion on a certain issue, would always consider it as a difference of opinion on that particular issue and forget it and would not allow that difference to interfere in our friendship, and Sundar is no exception. And I have been so happy to work as his colleagues, and definitely this department and this institute, as I was saying, was a lot to him. And I am again very happy to make this announcement, which already Sundar has done it in his blog, that Sundar has kindly agreed to continue in this capacity for 2 more years, which of course would be of course would be continued to, because our normal procedure is 2 plus 2 plus 1, and therefore I am happy that we would be having the department would be having the leadership of Sundar for 5 more years, and with that let me stop.
It's indeed a great pleasure for me to be associated with this. Is it okay? It is indeed a great pleasure for me to be here to felicitate for the function to felicitate Sundar. I knew Sundar when he was at TIFR in the late 70s, and as a matter of fact, I think my wife and they were in the big parties, and they were more maybe even greater friends than me. But of course, I liked this. I used to attend his seminar talks, and I always had a high opinion of him. And when I moved to 84 here, trying to build up a school of mathematics here, one day I was in my house in Mandavali, and he came to I think probably I had talked to him before, I don't remember, but I distinctly remember he came to my house and then said I would be interested in coming. And I was very happy, and he was also made an offer, and I don't want to, that somehow it didn't fructify. I don't want to go into that matter further, because one of those very unpleasant experiences, but this is a very happy occasion, therefore I don't want to dwell further on that. But fortunately, let me also, in those days, I think I had Kalyan Mukherjee, who was a great friend of mine, music as well as mathematics, and used to say very well of him. And also, I remember, I think I also talked to Ann Jones, I think on some occasion about Sundar. And I was very happy, but unfortunately it didn't come through. Fortunately, I am very happy that he could come back here, and with his leadership qualities, he has developed, he has founded a school of very great help in building up this school of mathematics, helped Balu to build up a very first-class school of mathematics here. And besides, I am also very happy. We had this, even though this, my institute and this, as you people know, I moved to CMI later, and this kind of collaboration, friendship has continued with Balu, Sundar, all these two institutions, and I hope that this, we have more such people like Sundar to promote and develop mathematics in Chennai. I wish him all the best, and thank you for calling me.
Good afternoon. So I think barring the family, I've known Sundar longest in this assembly. Both of us have not moved very much physically. We were born in Chennai, went to the same school, Christian High School. Then he went to Christian College and I went to Loyola. And we were both back at IIT together for 2 years for our MSc. And I think without sounding too immodest, that batch is well remembered. And then after various peregrinations, we are back here. I came here in 93 and he in 95, so we've been working together for nearly 17 years here. And of course, our extended families have several intersections because we come from similar backgrounds. Vijay has very beautifully summarized his work, which shows how Sundar has contributed to the stature of the mathematics department here. And Balu alluded to his efforts in recruiting faculty, and I have to stress it again, because today if we have a very congenial department of very talented young people, it's largely due to his proactive efforts in getting the right people here. Sundar, of course, is a no-nonsense person. Try to humbug him and you can get your head bitten off. But behind that facade is a very humane person, very sentimental, who is easily moved by the distress of his fellow beings, and champion of women's causes, and so on. So I'm sure there'll be lots of people who would want to say many nice things, so I won't take up most of your time. So I wish Sita, Sundar, and Radha all the very best, and Sarvabhishta Siddhirastu. May you achieve whatever is close to your heart. Thank you very much.
Okay, others, please. Rather than calling people by name, I think I would rather. Yes. Sure.
Well, as I said in the beginning of my talk, our trajectories have intersected many times over the years. I am not often very sure of the dates, but the first time I met him was in IIT Madras, 1972 or 73, I'm not sure, 72. In fact, I taught him a course, an elementary course on Hilbert space theory. And I think there were 2 or 3 in the class. It was an elective course, I think. And many years later, he would have something to say about the word Hilbert space. I will come back to that. So that was an elementary course. Then I was on leave from Geneva at that time, and I went back to Geneva, and he went off to US for graduate studies. In Geneva, I came to know Vaughan Jones very well. He was a few years junior to me, and he was beginning his graduate studies, and I had finished PhD earlier. And I knew Vaughan very well, and then Vaughan stayed on, and I moved on. I came back to India in 79 beginning to ISI Delhi. And I learned that Sundar was in TIFR at that time. Then KRP, my senior colleague, Professor Parthasarathi, became the head of the center in 1982, I think. And then we tried to discuss that what kind of people we should get. And obviously in my mind, Sundar was the first name that came to my mind. And as luck would have it, he did move to ISI Delhi. Again, I'm not sure of the date, 82. When did you come to Delhi, 82? 81, okay. So Sundar came to Delhi in 81. I was already there for a couple of years, or maybe 3. And I had a couple of students, one of whom is here, Krishna. And as he said in his talk, I asked Sundar whether he can, as Bijay said, that his early training or his thesis, etc., was on integral operators in Hilbert spaces of certain kind. And but I knew a little bit of von Neumann algebras, but I wanted to learn it better. So I requested him whether he can give a course on von Neumann algebras, which he agreed, and he gave a course in which I was there, and Krishna was there, and probably Muthu was also there. 3-4 people were there. That's all we had. We were in ISI Delhi. So he gave a course, and I trust that those lectures became your book in due course. No? Okay. And Then he left ISI Delhi and went to Bangalore. I forget which year was that, when you transferred to Bangalore. 87, okay. And I used to meet him in meetings and conferences, and we organized some schools, I think one in Bangalore in fundamental algebra and so on. But I didn't meet him extensively for some time, till 95 in Kyoto. I was visiting Araki for a brief 3 months, while he was visiting for a year. And we were staying in the same guest house, and I remember Radha was quite young then, and I used to take her out for a walk in the snow of early January. And that's when I think we had a discussion about his possibility to come to math science. I think you were already toying it in your mind. And as Balu, where is he gone? Oh, there he is. Balu alluded to that someone tried to dissuade him, and that someone is me. I tried to persuade him to stay on in ISI for obvious reason. I tried to bat for ISI, but I tried to be as fair as I could, and we used to have a discussion about these things occasionally. But ultimately he decided to come to Chennai. I think 95, he joined Chennai sometime 95. And then we met in various places, but I must say that I didn't meet him too often. But nevertheless, he's various points in his career, I had a few things to do. For example, I'll tell you in 1985, when I was visiting US, and I was visiting Barry Simon in Caltech, and I was staying with Krishna in Irvine. And I think Gadadhar was also there in Irvine exactly at the same time. And I don't know, Gadadhar, you had already decided to join an ISI at that time? Okay. And at that time, I made a call from Krishna's house to Vaughan, and I talked to him. He told me all about the things that he had done. His polynomials are already there and very famous and so forth. And I did mention to him at that time Sundar's name, saying that I have this colleague. I would like you to, like him to come and or discuss with you and try to get into these things. And he was very enthusiastic, and I must say that he had been always quite positive. And then also in 92, as many of you know, he visited India, and many incidents too. 92 was not a particularly pleasant year for many parts of India, because there were the riots in Bombay when Vaughan was walking on the streets of Bombay, actually, and there were riots in Bombay. And not only that, he was carrying the Fields Medal in his pocket on the streets of Mumbai when the riots were going on. Many times I had this intersection, which were, I hope, were beneficial to Sundar, and I'm really happy, and that happy to be here today on this very special occasion. And I would say, happy birthday, Sundar, and carry on.
I have some messages from people who could not be here. Let me read out one of them. So this is from Aladi Sitaram, and he says the following. Sundar can only be termed as lion-hearted. He's a first-rate mind, a superb mathematician, and a great teacher. Above all, he's a wonderful human being and a loyal friend. He has been one of the major influences on Indian mathematics. I wish him a continuing productive mathematical life. Yes, please. Professor Nadkarni.
I won't take much time. So I think I have enjoyed his friendship. I don't remember. Many people remember when he met him first. I don't remember that. Maybe in TIF or in ISI, ISI Delhi, but one of those places. But I also remember he came to Bombay University and he asked, we discussed some things about ergodic theory and type 3. But more important, I was here in IMSC, and whenever I felt bored or wanted to spend some time, I just walked to, and it was very nice to be in his room and talk to him. And also, I was working on some problem, invariant substrate problem, and I talked to him about it. And because of his precise knowledge on partial isometries, etc., I could complete that. But he would not want to have his name put on the article. So that got published in, without his name. But strangely, next time I was here again, he had given some exercise to his students, and it turned out to be, and he wanted to know how to, because there was something, and it mentioned that exercise to me, and after 2 days thought, I could give him a solution. And apparently, he had mentioned that talk to some other mathematicians like Raghunathan and K.R. Parasar, and they had said, no, that must be true, etc., etc. And I had given a counterexample. So not only that, he immediately, of course it was a trivial thing, I can't even mention what that problem was. But anyway, I gave a counterexample, and he immediately wrote an email to both Raghunathan and K.R. Parasar, look, you are wrong, and I have given a counterexample to that. Not only that, he was not willing to have his name on a paper on invariant substrate problem. He wrote this up for some journal which we decided where to, not for a very big journal, but it was a classroom note which he wrote it up, and his name was there and my name was there, and then we published it in this bulletin, this Ramanujan Maths, not journal, but a newsletter of the. So I'm very proud of that, because on the one hand, he was not willing to have a name on a proper paper, but he wrote it up. I mean, I think that says much for the mathematics, the person that Sundar is. And then I think these are the things I want to say, and I'm happy to have enjoyed your friendship. So I think.
Professor Ajit Iqbal Singh.
Well, I celebrated Sundar's 20th birthday in a workshop for promising meritorious students, and I'm glad to be here to celebrate his 60th birthday, where he has kept multiple times his promises and has encouraged new generations for doing that much more. And I have never praised him much in his presence, but a lot in his absence, but here it goes. Who does naughty things, but in a simple way can explain, works in infinite dimensional spaces, indulges in tangles in a plane, serious and swift all that time, working by himself or in a big audience domain, at deepest of the deep and highest of the high terrain, in his well-equipped submarines and aeroplanes, scholarly monographs and textbooks to cater well to every mind frame, little columns in the media with humor never in vain. And, when he had a contraction, who would have thought in his dream chain that he was preparing for a unitary dilation, his own crane? This is, I'm really, very, very happy to be here. All the best. Happy birthday, many happy returns, happy long life.
Yeah. No, okay, I am here as a representative of StatMath unit in Bangalore. See, I always miss him because I shifted from Calcutta to Delhi, then he had left 1987. And when I came to ISI Bangalore, he had left from there to here. So, yes, so I don't have any stories to tell, but he contributed a lot to SMU, the StatMath unit Bangalore, and the people there, senior people, keep telling us about him. So, I don't know, maybe Gadadhar will tell some stories, but I just have some gift. So, this is Shiva's idea, so to have a gift with our signature and the ISI logo, what he showed in the morning, but the names are difficult to read.
Krishna.
Thank you. So Sundar has been a good friend for a long time. I think I joined ISI Delhi as a student and he was already there. And after I finished my, during that time of course, as you already know by now, that I attended a course given by him. And contrary to what he claimed, part of that course became his book, because if you read the acknowledgements, my name appears. There is no way, if it didn't, it would have appeared. So anyway, that was a great, we built a great relationship. He used to live in the guest house, and he used to host some of the students, probably most of the students, and he used to hang out there and have some coffees and so on, probably even some beer. No, I didn't drink beer in those days. So I was introduced to beer by my wife later on in my life. So anyway, we had a lot of coffees and became very good friends there. I think I used to water his plants when he used to go on holidays. So after that, somehow after I finished my PhD and left, to my surprise I found him in my neighborhood. I was somewhere in California and he was pretty close, 50 miles away from me. And again we used to have meet often. He used to have one of these convertibles, which he used to drive beyond the speed limit. It used to be great fun. And I think he also showed me a different vehicle in Bangalore once I went. Anyway, so coming back from California, during that time, being a postdoc, I was looking for jobs. And luckily for me, I Seshadri offered. When I wrote to him, he immediately offered me a job. I don't know, that was a great honor for me that he did, and surprise. So at that time we were talking, and Sundar also, I tried to talk to him, and probably because his family was here, he was getting tempted. And somehow, without any persuasion from anyone, he also applied. And both of us were promised an appointment, but when we came here, that was in the imaginary axis. I stayed for a few months and somehow managed one, and Sundar went back to Bangalore. After coming here, I used to visit him quite often in Bangalore, and those days he would take me on his motorbike. That was the second vehicle. He used to go through 2 buses. So you must have seen Harry Potter. That was really happening to me. So anyway, that was. He always claimed that he was a very defensive driver. The PL rider had the opposite impression. There's a serious difference of opinion here. So anyway, even those days our friendship grew. He had his independent house and his Jeeves. He used to call him Jeeves. One Mr. Ramaya, who used to serve us whatever we wanted practically. And those days we used to have some beer. Of course, by then I already got into that mode. So I became an alcoholic in some sense, which continues even now. I'll tell you later about it. So, so at that time, again, during the time when he was in Bangalore, because of my visits, I think he remembered his offer and he kept getting tempted. So then started the fight between my advisor and me. He was dissuading him from coming here, and I was persuading him. So it looked like because his family was here, his parents and so on, and the music, so he was finally convinced and he came here. I am very happy that he came. Ever since he came, he quietly in his own way transformed many of the things that are done here in this institute. You will find, for example, if you went back our institute every year produces something called the annual report, where our work is reported, the papers that we write, each of us, and what we do and so on. If you see at some point of time, there is a change in format. Suddenly the annual report starts looking like a book. And that was the year when Sundar was chairing the committee. So he insisted that anybody who writes about their work also give a reference. So you'll find now what we have done and what reference, what book and so on. So he has systematized the annual report that now it looks actually like a book, so a mathematician can understand. And there are several quiet things that he has set in motion like this. Many things. I don't want to list. Let me leave it for some other people to list. So him coming here was very good for me, even though I mathematically did not interact with him in the sense of collaborating on a work. I should say that somehow, pretty soon after he came here, he was missing the Bangalore crowd. So there he was. It was a very free environment, talking mathematics in the coffee room, and that kind of environment is completely missing here. This is a different kind of setup. So just to humor him, I thought I'll talk about some work that I was doing. And by accident, we ended up writing a paper together. And that was that somehow started him off. And around that time, Vijay also joined. So he started collaborating with Vijay, and he went on to do great things. Of course, just before that, he also discovered the hypergroups. That was between hypergroups and Vijay, I think we wrote a paper together. So that was only collaboration I had with him, that is the mathematical interaction. But of course, each time I get stuck with something and I go to his office, he gives me the answer in 2 minutes. So I'm always sure that when I get stuck, I can always go back to Sundar and ask him. And our friendship continued and continues till today. In fact, in the last couple of years, we have started regularly meeting for our dinners and beers with Sita and Sundar. It is nice, and it is. The only regret I have is that he is becoming 60. I wish he was 40 and I was 20, then we could continue for 20 more years. But that is not to be. However, I'm sure that we will continue to have our friendly arguments, chats, fights, and so on, over dinners and beers, exactly. It was great having Sundar here, and I wish him a very long life. And I wish that he will also come back here for the 5 years that Balu promised him, even though he keeps threatening us that he'll discontinue after 2 years. I hope he doesn't do that, because there are so many students and so many faculty who have benefited from him. Just talking to him mathematics, being his students, being his colleagues, it was fantastic. I mean, of course, we have our fights, but fights are only arguments over issues, not beyond that. And so we have benefited greatly from him. Thank you. And all the best to all of you, Radha, Sundar, and Sita. We'll continue to meet. Bye.
So I have this other message to read out, but since Pramad was afraid he wouldn't come, he sent me this message. Since he's here, come. He can read it himself.
First of all, happy birthday. And I've known Sundar for a fairly long time, not as long as Kesavan. But I first saw him in 1981 when, Professor Chalan and Professor Iqbal Singh, I too am from Delhi, and I was being persuaded to go into MSc in Delhi University when one lecturer of mine took me aside and said, don't even think about it, go to ISI. And I said, I'm not interested in statistics. So she asked me to invite K.R. Parthasarathi over to my college to give a talk. And Sundar came for the KRP's talk, and I remember him because he had this French beard, which was not permanent. Sometimes it was there, sometimes it wasn't. And the next year I was in ISI, and what I remember most, Krishna alluded to the canteen, the coffee, and there is some kind of, I don't know what to call it, a veranda-like thing right outside the canteen, and Sundar would sit around with other people and talking about Hilbert space where God lived, and I would be eavesdropping. One thing led to the other, and we started talking. And he wasn't then he hadn't taught me a course, but he started inviting me home, and I started asking him little questions, and he told me about Har measure, just what it is, and the next 1 week I had to read Har measure and many other things. That motorcycle that Krishna alluded to, I have ridden on it in Delhi, and I can vouch for the fact that he went through buses then too. He did it, and it was after one of those motorcycle rides that he told me about Har measure. So that's when your mind gets focused, when you go between. So ask me anything about Har measures, okay? And more than that, one of the most memorable experiences I've had, Balaji may be here or not, yes he is. This is an experience Balaji and I shared. One day Sundar came to me and to Balaji and said that he'd like to teach us a course. It's not an official course, but just a course, and it would meet at around 7 p.m. at night on representations of groups. It was absolutely a wonderful course. It was just finite groups, but it got me to understand, and Balaji to understand representation theory. We were young. It also got us to talk to each other, which we have been doing for so many years, Balaji and I, mathematically. I regard that as a very important part of my mathematical education. And I have to appreciate the generosity with time. Yes, we attended, that's all we had to do. As it turned out, I worked hard on the course, but he took time to teach at 7 p.m. and I really appreciate it even now. The next 15, 20 years we met sporadically, sometimes in the US, sometimes in Canada, sometimes here. He's always been a Dutch uncle to me, been affectionate. It's been my privilege to know Sita and Radha also, and I think our families enjoy each other's company enormously. So before saying much more, I just want to thank you for being my friend. It's been a privilege to know all three of you, and I don't speak just for myself, but I speak for my entire family. Thank you very much. And I enjoy sharing the friendship with Krishna, Shanti, and all of us when we meet together. Thank you very much.
Professor B.V. Rao.
I knew Sundar for several years, but first time I met him was perhaps in 86 or 87 when the Indian Statistical Institute was conducting a summer school or winter school in Mysore. 82, oh, 82, okay. Right, I still remember, in fact Balaji was also there in that winter school. I still remember the young Sundar, very passionate, probably accompanied by Balaji, going around the houses in Mysore and pleading with them, allow him to see the match, World Cup match. But I don't think anybody allowed, right? Yes, no one allowed. Right. So that was the first time. Later on, I had a nice experience when he visited ISA Calcutta and gave a delightful series of lectures in Phenomenon algebras. And then, of course, he moved to Bangalore from Delhi. And, of course, as Kalyan and others explained, we were just hoping he would stay on in Bangalore, but several things compelled him. Still, later on, we kept in touch. And both Sundar and his wife are excellent hosts, and I enjoyed their hospitality several times. I wish them all the best. Greetings.
Mr. Karandikar.
So as I mentioned yesterday, I met Sundar just when I had finished my thesis, and I had come to Delhi to spend some time. He was already a faculty member, I was just a student, but well, he was friends with a master's student, so I was quite senior amongst them. So we became very quickly good friends. after a 2-year stint in the US, I returned to ISI and I came to Delhi, and Sundar was there. And as I mentioned again yesterday, we formed a group of young Turks then to take on few of the issues in the institute. One of my regret is that at that time I was far too busy trying to finish my work on filtering theory. So those 2 years or 2.5 years that we intersected in Delhi, I didn't have much of any mathematical interaction with Sundar, so I could have also learned many of the things which others learned from him. So that remains one regret. People have mentioned his motorbike, a couple of them mentioned, and I would like to add a story about that. So Sundar was very happy to give anybody a ride on his motorbike to go around and come back. So though I too had my own two-wheeler, I was a bit nervous driving around there. So if somewhere far I have to go, a couple of times I took a ride with Sundar. He had only one condition. So many of you may have been to ISI campus, ISI Delhi campus, and both Sundar as well as I, we lived in what is called the B block. There was the motorbike parking was in between two flats. There is a staircase, and then there is very narrow lane to get into that parking area. So Sundar's condition was that when he comes in, he's not going to stop outside, let you get down, and then he will park. He has to do it in one motion. If you are willing to take that, then and only then he will give you a ride. So, because he always used to do that. He would never stop there. He would come and zoom, and the vehicle will stop only when it has reached its parking spot. So if somebody wanted a ride with him, they had to be willing to go through that. So it's very nice to remember these old times. As Krishna said, wish we could take time back and we could go back to those times, but time moves on and so do we. So happy birthday, Sundar.
Balaji.
Hello. Sundar is a great guy to have known all these years. As Pramath mentioned, I just go back, I mentioned this in a talk that he gave at CMI a couple of months ago. We were running this student seminars in St. Stephen's College. I also want to say that I am from St. Stephen's College. Raghunathan really likes that. And so we were calling people from ISI for our student seminars. And the first people whom we came to call was, KRP and T. Parthasarthi. And these were the people who had come and given talks at St. Stephen's College in our, if people have known these figures, the manner in which they dressed, the manner in which they walked, they spoke, KRP especially, So that was important. I don't want to describe the manner in which he wore his pants and such things, but then in 1981, we came to ISI and we were told, there's a person called Sundar, and I came into the corridor expecting somebody like KRP. And then I went into the room and lo and behold, I had Sundar there in jeans, big. The belt was nice and wide, a studded figure. Stud is what we called him. and we, normally we used to give this fair for people to come and give their talk at St. Stephen's, but he came in his mobike. And St. Stephen's, is a co-ed college, and I can now share, the men were impressed, but the women were also very, very impressed. And it was a great thing. And then, once you know such a guy, you start, visiting ISI. He's a very attractive person. I went in so we started going after, I met him after the bachelor's degree there with Pramath. We had these great evening sessions there. Of course, it was not always mathematics. He had a good range of risky sense of humor. So it was good fun. And then we met in '82 in Mysore for the harmonic analysis workshop. And we had a whole lot of speakers, scary speakers like Professor Nadkarni, B. Ramachandran.
Yeah, as I mentioned in the morning, when I joined ISI, Sundar was there, and in 1983, so first 2 years, I had the good fortune of sharing an office with him and also learn from him, and we had some collaboration. Then later on, we were neighbors in the guest house and also in the B-type flats for some time. And So I have also experienced this motorbike. On weekends, you will suddenly hear this noise of starting the motorbike, then you know that Sundar is going for shopping. So, and then when he moved to Bangalore, then he asked me to come and visit. It was a long visit of just almost one semester. And there again, I learned a lot from him, and I was also able to interact with several other people in Bangalore. Those were the good times in Bangalore Center. I still remember the coffee room where everybody would gather in the morning. Before going to their office, they will come to the coffee room, and everybody will be there for almost half an hour. So I still remember those days. I was able to make other contacts during that visit, and it was very memorable. And people have mentioned the motorbike, but later on I remember once I was in Illinois, and then he visited me, and that was like a small car, half the size of Tata Nano. I don't know, he was driving that vehicle in the US, so I think he always had this fascination for different kinds of vehicles. I think I have one or two regrets. One thing is he didn't pursue his music. We used to have some joint flute sessions and some vocal sessions together. He mentioned to me once that in Delhi he tried to learn Hindustani. He went to Pandit Amarnath, he's a disciple of Amir Khan. And apparently he told me to go back first, learn Hindi and come back. So that was very bad. So that is one regret I have. But still, when we meet, we have some discussion about music, and still remember those days. And another regret is, of course, he didn't continue in this area of graph theory, linear algebra. In the beginning, Russell Maris was known to me. I visited him for some time, and he knew about our work, and so Sundar got in touch with him, and he visited him. And I didn't write anything with Maris, but Sundar managed to write. And one of their papers, which is known as Grown, Maris and Sundar, it has got a huge number of citations, if you see that paper. So that is another regret that I have, that he did not continue in this area. Yeah, that will be on top, because it has just become hugely popular. And so, okay, I think these are a couple of things I wanted to mention. And I think many of us have had the opportunity. I want to say that we have learned things from him, and with the joint work, some of us have got a rather low Ardosh number. I don't know what is your number, but I got a rather low Ardosh number or von Neumann number because of Sundar, I think. So it's really something that we will cherish, and I wish you and your family all the best. Happy birthday. Thank you.
Can I request some of his students to speak? Ved.
First of all, a small token from all of us. This is from the students.
Only if she gives us sweets.
Yeah, and you guys have heard a lot. Well, you guys have already heard so many good things about him. Oh, sorry. Yeah. I'll just sum it up and cut it short. Okay. So I'd just like to say that thank you for being the person you are, and all good things that have happened to you, people around you, were immediate corollaries to that. Okay. So thank you so much, because and yes, Balu, don't leave him. Okay? Don't let him go. Okay? We need him around. Your work ethics, matter a lot. It's very inspiring to all of us. So please carry on and be around. Okay. Don't leave us so soon. I mean, just carry on with your maths. We need you around. Okay. Thank you so much.
Murugananda.
Friends, I am from nicer Bhubaneswar by name Muruganandam. Watch. Let me introduce myself because many of you may not be knowing me. I was formerly in the Pondicherry University. I was neither his student nor his collaborator, but I learnt a lot from him. As Professor Alladi Sitaram had pointed out, he is the best human being I have ever seen. It's no exaggeration. See, I should mention, so I cannot say great things. See, I come from, my family background is mainly village, so I have to learn many things from the streets. There is nobody in the house telling me you should do this, you should do that, you should become a collector or a doctor and so on. So it is precious for me. His association was very precious for me. It helped me on 2 occasions, which I perhaps tell it later. But I was highly influenced by his lectures. They are always stylish. So I wanted to kind of learn many things about how to lecture and so on. And second things, many of you would have, I don't know, nobody had pointed out, this MTTS program, he is one of the main pioneer of that. That Rishi Moolam, perhaps he is one of them, whose brainchild was MTTS. Initially, he was also coming and giving lectures, but later, of course, you know the story. See, his, I don't think his contributions is confined only to math science or ISI and so on. He had contributed a lot to the mathematics education in the whole India. And he is ready to assimilate with any type of people, and he tries to kind of silently influence them. And see, there are 2 types. So some people do it aggressively, some people do it very silently. And there is a huge crowd who may not come here and talk about him because, for, you know, for want of fear or some sort of, you know, stage fear and such things. And on behalf of them, I wish him a long life, and he has to contribute a lot. See, I want to share something personal. The Sundar name is uttered in my house per day at least 100 times because my son's name is Sundar. Thank you so very much. So this is my small presentation. Thank you.
Simon.
I wish to greet Sundar on his 60th birthday and wish the family a wonderful time ahead. It will be presumptuous on my part to talk about Sundar's mathematics, but I should acknowledge here Sundar is a pillar of the counter-information activity here. A feature which probably has not been mentioned here is, as a physicist, I find Sundar is one mathematician to whom I can talk without much diffidence. And what I mean by that, probably I should explain by an interaction I had with Professor Seshadri exactly 25 years ago. This was in '87. You may not remember because this may be very something that happens to you every day, but this was for me a big learning process which has never left my mind. This was near the reception. So one afternoon I asked you in '87, I said, I know on the, I mean at that time I was interested in flag manifolds for a particular problem, so I asked Professor Shesha, I asked some mathematician, he said, no, this one you have to go to the big man. So I ended up catching him on the, near the reception. I asked him, I know the unitary group acts on the flag manifold from the left. Now can you explain, describe this action in some detail? And Professor Seshadri said, well, you have fully described it. You have fully described it. You have fully described it. Then I thought I didn't understand my question. Then I went in slow motion, added a lot more phrases. And then I again asked him, can you explain to me in some detail in which I can understand. And Professor Seshadri, see, none of this slow motion or these extra phrases seem to have impressed him. He said, you said you have a flag manifold. You said a unitary group acts on it. And we also said it acts on the left. And you have fully described it. Okay? Now, this has always stayed in my mind, and this is the reason for my diffidence in talking to mathematicians. Okay, so this is always, Professor Seshadri left a sense of awe in me. But Sundar, I found it very refreshingly different. That is why whenever I find Sundar Sundar, if he calls me and tells me that there is a mathematics talk I must attend, I will attend. I have valued him as a colleague. I attended one of his courses, and I think he gave me the certificate that I attended on functional analysis. He told me that I was more regular than some of his regular students. Okay, but I think my preparation being what it is, I don't think everything went into me. But with whatever went in, I tried to apply it to some problem, and I think I have actually almost solved the problem. I would have, my idea was to write up this paper and dedicate it to him on this day. I am lagging behind my schedule by a few days. So one of these days I will sort of as a delayed action, I will give you that paper. We discussed, and we even, I think we discussed one problem. Please don't say it is stillborn or aborted. I am hoping that it is germinating. So before I leave the place and you leave the place, probably I think we should have this thing come out. In my opinion, Sundar is an extremely fine colleague to have around. I have felt that Sundar is a very soft person, wearing the mask of a very tough-looking gentleman. This I have seen on many occasions, particularly during my daughter's wedding quite recently. So Sundar, thank you for what you are. Thank you for what you have been, being a wonderful colleague and a friend. And I really hope and pray that you will continue to enjoy doing what you are doing for many decades to come. Thank you.
Professor Rajshekaran.
Good afternoon. I'm sorry I came a little late. I do not know what had happened earlier. So I thank Vijay for having given me this opportunity. I'm not a mathematician, I'm a theoretical physicist. So let me start by giving whatever I can say as my association with Sundar. One of my teachers in Chicago was his ancestor, the great Chandrasekhar. That is the first association I would like to have with him. What is the second one? Second one, I come from the same college as he in Chennai, Madras Christian College, Tambaram. So I feel therefore empowered to say something more about Sundar on this occasion. I don't know how many of you know that Sundar had a first innings in this institute which was very short-lived. He was drawn out of this institute. I do not know how many of you know that. Fortunately, that mistake was corrected soon enough after RR, the next director came. And we are very happy to have him after that without driving him out. And this audience establishes And this event and all the other things which Sundar has done during these years establishes that what was done in this institute during the second time was the right thing to do. Unfortunately, although I have tried to understand sometimes what Sundar subject is, I am not as successful as some others, especially people like Simon. So I had to admire him only from a distance. But I just wanted to mention one more event. This happened maybe 3 years ago in Madurai. There was a meeting which, I don't know whether Bhaskaran is around, he arranged it through his friend Jayaprakasham. Jayaprakasham's daughter is here as a postdoc. So they arranged a meeting in Madurai in which it was not clear what kind of audience it was. And I was a co-invitee with Sundar. And Sundar's topic was a mathematical topic. I think it was Catalan numbers, right? Not Fibonacci numbers, but Catalan numbers. I was wondering how Sundar is, I did not know what Catalan numbers were. I did not know how Sundar will talk about this to a group of people who did not seem to have much knowledge about mathematics. I think there were even some young school students. But I was simply amazed. This is the first talk by Sundar. I heard him earlier. This is the first talk which made me wonder, what kind of person he is. He started from a scratch and made it so clear that even maybe a 5th standard school student could understand everything about Catalan numbers. This was a great revelation to me. Unfortunately, it came too late to me. But I'm sure many other people would have enjoyed such bright moments with Sundar. I wish him on this birthday many happy years, many more happy years, and many more healthy years, and many more active years. Thank you.
Professor Sridharan.
Very happy birthday to you. First of all, I think you're only 60 years young. So, in fact, there are many, many more years to go and the very best to come. And I wish you the very best. I began talking only because of Simon. Because Simon talked about Seshadri and you. In fact, Simon, he gave me something to read. In fact, it's quite interesting. And in fact, I did read it. And in fact, I talked to him. The way in which a physicist goes about talking mathematics is, it's something very unique. And I think certainly, Seshadri's way of, he would have understood it certainly in his own way, and he would have replied it in his own way. I can understand both Seshadri and Simon because I know both of you quite well. And in fact, it's nothing surprising to me that it was like this. But on the other hand, I have known Sundar for a very, very long time. In fact, I wanted to say so many good things about. In fact, I think I had the greatest regard for you. In fact, you are always young, and you would be young, and I only hope that you will continue to be young. The very best to you.
Others? RR.
Very happy returns of the day. Happy 60th birthday. I am very proud today for having had a certain role in making second innings of Sundar possible in this institute. And that probably impressed so many people here to say so many nice things about it. And that's one reason I wanted to come here and say, thank you very much, Sundar.
So I'm sort of new to this felicitation thing, and the thing I know that closely resembles it is toasts in the U.S. And there's an affiliated word which is roast, which some of you may or may not know. And this seems like somehow too formal opportunity to skewer Sundar. So I'm going to do that tomorrow in my talk. But in the meantime, more appropriate to the occasion is I have a note from Vaughn Jones, who would have been here, as far as I understand, if he hadn't become a grandfather in the last 3 days or 5 days or something like that. So he was here last week, but not here now. So here's what he has to say. I would like to add my personal best wishes to Sundar and congratulate him on reaching the grand old age of 60. Sundar has been a good friend and a mathematical collaborator for many, many years now, and will surely be for many more. He is one of the founding fathers of the theory of subfactors and has caused that theory to flourish in India, both through his own work and that of his many students. And then in bold-faced capital letters, happy birthday, Sundar.
Others? Would any of his other students like to say something? Shamindra.
Hello, everyone. Yeah. So, in size, I might look a big, quite big, bigger than Sundar. But before I was joining math science as a student, I heard of Sundar. Sundar came to Bangalore, ISI Bangalore, and he was giving a talk on, I would say, subfactors and bicategories and bialgebras. So in the beginning of the talk, he said that like we were afraid of Sundar because he had this French beard, and we already heard that he's a very angry guy and so on. And probably it's associated to the French beard, and we were sitting in the back. So he started with the talk with, this talk is for those who are sitting in the back. So, I mean, we were captured by that. So, and we were anyway interested in subfactors, and not subfactors, operator algebras. Myself, Paramita, and Kunal was there. But we were also interested that time in '98 how we could go abroad. That was that was the theme. Maybe it has changed now. I feel bad that I had this kind of affinity or ideas, but now probably it has changed. Things are easy now in India. And so after the talk, when we were MStat students, we were trying to see whether Sundar is there or not. Okay, and we got a glimpse of Sundar, and Sundar might have seen us, and we were waiting if we could talk to him. And you have to understand, this was MStat, and it was, ISI was like a prison cell, and we were taught 5 courses, and not prison, I mean, mathematics, like, and all these Rajada and Sitaram and everyone was there, and Bhaskar Bakshi, and we were a little bit trembling and like trying to see whether Sundar will call us and so on. And it didn't happen, but after some, I think then Sundar thought that somebody is trying to peep, like not inside the room, but from far away. So then he shouted, "Hey you, are you looking for me?" Then yes, and then we said that our main intention is not mathematics, to go abroad. So we said that. So he's like a nice gentleman. He suggested a few places where he knew a few people, and as you can see, like my English is so horrible, I never dared to appear for GRE. So we came to math science and started doing PhD. But before joining PhD, I heard two things about Sundar. One is he's a very angry person, and probably you all know that he's not at all angry, and so it's pointless to tell you these things, but this video might be in the YouTube to all the students for the future. He was never angry with me for the 5 years I had. He was very encouraging. The second thing, which is a confusion among the prospective future students, that in occasions he will take a sip of the finest premium Glen family and then go back to sub-factors and then again take a sip, and that is also not true. Yes, he enjoys the Glen family, but when he works, he means business. And actually, a couple of times he was very angry, not at me, but the ones when he was meeting me, and there were a few guys who tried to sell credit cards, and he will make scary faces, and they will not say anything, and they will just run away. Yeah, and these are the few things I wanted to share, and I'm extremely happy to have him as my PhD advisor. And in fact, the 2 works which I have done, it was impossible without him. He taught me how to write papers. Although with, I don't know, I still cannot write properly, but whatever I have learned from Sundar, and he actually made me sit beside him, and he typed both the papers of me, and this is how you write. He was very patient with me. And also, with the work, I mean, he had almost more than 50% of that to do with it. Anyways, and yet he didn't put his name, and I requested him to put his name. And he was very, very kind in all respects. He supported me. And what more? One more thing is, he was very relaxed. He never, one thing which I feel he should have done to me, he should have scolded more. He was more of a sweet father type of figure to me. Yeah. But if I look at him as a person, I mean, I'm more encouraged now rather than when I was a student. So now probably I'm more responsible. So I understand how a faculty should be, how you should be treating your students. And all these things, these little things, if I wouldn't have seen Sundar, a very rational person, I wouldn't have been so like what I am now. That's it.
Anyone like to add something? Six of which 5 are here. Okay. He wants to talk when we are in a more civilized state. Kunal?
So I meet Sundar for the first time in the same talk as Shami said. So I was also one of the audience in the back. I realized, I mean, much of the talk made no sense to me except on the middle of the blackboard He made a box and said that the trace restricted to the projections is the 0, 1 interval. And he tried to explain that this gives a sense that given an infinite dimensional subspace, you have a way to attach a, let's say, irrational dimension to it. And the next thing that made sense to me in the talk was there is a person called Jones who has reinvented the numbers 4 cos square pi over n in a magical way. So those are the two things that I understood. But before that, because of intense course in Banach spaces in ISI, I almost decided to learn Banach space. But by the end of the talk or the next night, I decided that I have to do von Neumann algebras. So so anywhere I went, I mean, I came here to do von Neumann algebras. It didn't work for me. Sundar was away for a while. So I worked, I went back to US to do von Neumann algebras again. But then my advisor left for Germany for a while, for 2 years or so. So I had to read all by myself. Now, most of the people, those who said here about von Neumann algebras, they usually don't say that this is a subject where people write very terse papers. I mean, so it's a well-known fact. And but Sundar is an exception to this. And most of the proofs goes by hand waving when you are talking to a professor. Like you move the projection from here to there, twist it by imitating from there to there, do it a couple of times, you see the answer. That's the way the proof goes. Okay. So, well, and the thing is there are voluminous literatures in the subject. There are nice books. But if you have to read one of those and in a linear way and then imagine I try doing von Neumann algebras, you possibly reach the end of your PhD. So this is where the book of Sundar that Vijay showed, that Invitation to von Neumann algebras, comes as a great help. It is one of the classic in von Neumann algebras, I think. And not only I think, there are many people who think like this. Because if you think that von Neumann algebra is sort of a movie, that book is the trailer. So you know what's coming next. So, I mean, that's how I think. I mean, Sundar writes excellent books. I mean, I think he's a very nice orator. And I hope he still continues to contribute this way. Happy birthday.
Okay. Anybody else wishes to say something? Sundar? Oh. I hope I got the right bag. I put it in.
Yes.
You want to say something at all, or shall I? Okay, so I'm reading this on Sundar's behalf. So this is it's several page article titled "Thank You." Please condone my inability to directly express my gratitude to each of you who has so kindly assembled here today due to my wretched neurological condition which makes me choke up and bawl like a baby whenever I'm emotionally affected. My daughter Radha never ceases to be surprised or embarrassed at how I can turn on the fountain act even in a TV show like Friends. Nevertheless, as I must record my gratitude to so many people who have ensured that I led a full and satisfying life, I must ask Vijay yet again to come to my help, this time by reading out what I have prepared for this almost sure eventuality. I saw Keshavan perform a similar exercise with great poise a few months ago, possibly not forgetting to mention anybody who had played a vital role in his life. Let me try to emulate his example and do a fast rerun of my mathematical life. This professional life has been blessed by the numerous teachers, mathematicians, colleagues and friends, students, supportive administrators and family members whom I have had the good fortune of molding my life around. Teachers, let me single out Rahi Shiromani, who first gave me my first introduction to epsilons and deltas and always found time to encourage me by suggesting further books to expand my horizons with while I was still an undergrad at Madras Christian College. K.M. Das, who was the first to show me that mathematics could be beautiful through his brilliant course of linear algebra in the first semester of my master's program at IIT Madras. This course was based on the book Finite Dimensional Vector Spaces, which laid the foundation for the rest of my career. And finally, Paul Halmos, who taught me from the fundamentals of Hilbert space to how one should think, do, talk, write, and teach mathematics. And in short, essentially everything I have done with my professional life. Mathematicians. I have met so many people with obviously awesome minds that it was easy to be acutely aware of my own limitations and to not fall into the trap, I hope, that so many Indian scientists fall into, namely that of reading too much into the fact that one is a local maximum among a sea of mediocrity and getting an exaggerated view of one standing as a scientist. I've had the privilege of seeing up close and talking to such impressive people as Alain Kahn, Vaughan Jones, Cyprian Foyash, Bill Arvison, etc., etc. More importantly, I have known outstanding mathematicians who are also wonderful human beings and in whom one senses not a trace of condescension when they talk to you. The most notable examples being John Thompson, Dan Wojciechowski, Uffe Horup, Gilles Pizier, and Raghavan Narasimhan, all of whom I feel humbled and honored to be able to number among my friends. With such role models in evidence, it should not be hard to convey the right values to one's students and junior colleagues. Colleagues and friends. Here too I have been most fortunate throughout my career. Even during my stay at TIFR, where more people were drawn to my music than to my mathematics, I had wonderful learning experiences of struggling through Atiyah's K-theory with Pati, and Chan's notes on differential geometry, as well as Laurent Schwartz's complex analytic manifolds with Gurjar. I can't resist the temptation of reporting the happy circumstance of subsequently, actually decades later, doing the Bott periodicity theorem the right way, in the language of C-star algebras, during a seminar on KK theory at ISI Bangalore with Pati in the audience. Then in ISI Delhi, I had the privilege of seeing the outstanding work ethic and simplicity of KRP. Exposure to him and Kalyan at that time, and their obvious happiness to talk Hilbert space with me, did wonders for rebuilding my self-confidence. I also had a most happy period of collaboration with Ravi Bapat, who communicated the magic of combinatorics to me. I wrote 3 papers with Bapat, each of which I am very fond of, as well as proud of. It was also here that I got to meet Shobha Madan, who has been a dear friend ever since, and has always made herself available to share the important moments of my life. I still have a photograph in my study at home, which she took of Radha, not yet 10 days old. She was supposed to have been here, but was unavoidably detained. Within a few weeks of my reaching Delhi, KRP asked me to give a course on von Neumann algebras. To use a Halmosism, I did not know enough about them at that time to distinguish them from a hole in the ground. My long and tortuous discovery of a wonderful subject started there, with Krishna, a young graduate student then, happily letting himself be subjected to many ill-conceived lectures on the Tomita-Takasaki theorem. My understanding of the subject reached some state of adequacy only after some time, after I had spent a wonderful 6 weeks in ISI Calcutta, where I gave a course of lectures which then grew into my book on von Neumann algebras. I carried away from Badanagar the conviction that the atmosphere of Somesh, BV and the coffee club in the StatMath unit were a goal to be emulated and aimed for everywhere. Not long after that, Kalyan, who has been a bit of a fairy godmother to me throughout my career, helped fix a visit to the US for a year, which then extended to a second. It was then that my transformation from operator theorist to operator algebraist really started, when I met and got to know Vaughan Jones, Hans Wenzel, Adrian Opnianu, Masamichi Takasaki, and Ed Efros, and got into the then currently emerging area of subfactors. Vaughan has always been very generous with his time and ideas. He was here just last week, and the price he had to pay for this gesture of trying to be with me for what he christened the Sundar Fest was that neither he nor his wife could be with their daughter at the time of birth of their first grandchild, who arrived a week earlier than expected. which is why he is not here today. Between Kalyan and me, we convinced him to visit us respectively in Delhi and Bangalore, where I had moved after my second return from the US. And I got to working quite hard at converting one's lectures with his often impressionistic hints of proofs into a genuine introduction to the subject. This work also involved my giving an extended version of these lectures during a wonderful 9 months at Kyoto as a guest of Araki Sensei's hospitality. This book, co-authored with Juan, was, in a sense, my coming of age as an operator algebraist. Moving to ISI Bangalore was the next critical phase of my life. We lived surrounded by the kind of problems that only an inmate of ISI can truly comprehend. And in the face of all sorts of odds, we created a vibrant atmosphere for mathematics. My long association with Sitaram culminated in our seeing the department grow in leaps and bounds, and from 6 or 7 when I joined there in 1987, to a little more than 20 when I moved on from there to IMSc in 1995. The new faculty recruited during that period included Vishwambar Pati, Gadadhar Mishra, Bhaskar Bagchi, Narasimha Shastri, and Thangavelu. We were obviously doing something right. That was the golden age of ISI Bangalore. I then moved to IMSc when Radha's schooling needs seemed to advocate a move away from the rural charms but limitations of ISI at Kengeri to math science in what was still called Madras. It was a pleasure to once again have Keshavan and Krishna as colleagues. Here again I was fortunate to see a department grow from about 7 to close to 20. And what is most important, I think we, that is Balu, Keshavan, Kapil, Krishna, Nagaraj, and I, and later Paramesh, Raghavan, etc., have managed to create an extraordinarily conducive atmosphere in our department as well as the institute, the like of which I have not seen anywhere. One of Paramesh's recent visitors from Poland, who spent a few months visiting him here, considered the atmosphere at IMSc as being superior to that of IHES Paris and Max Planck Institute Bonn. I believe we have successfully synthesized the democracy of ISI with the academic quality control of TIFR. Also, this has been the place where I have had the most rewarding and fulfilling collaboration of my life with Vijay. I lost count of how many papers we have written together after we went into the double digits several years ago. We seem to complement one another's strengths and weaknesses so well. My only grievance is that the world sometimes looks at my grey hair and draws altogether wrong conclusions as to our respective contributions to the collaboration. Each of my last 3 or 4 PhD students, Shami, Ved, Jijo, Madhushri, knows that whenever we ran into a brick wall, we just had to appeal to his superior intellect, and he would invariably deliver the goods. He has been the single most wonderful thing that IMSc has given me. Thank you. Students, I have been blessed with this lovely brood whose single parenting has been a constant joy and a source for a purpose in life. Vijay Rajan, with his ever sunny disposition. Uma, whose work inspired Juan to get a student of his to do her thesis, extending it, and whose promising career was thwarted by autism claiming her son among its victims. Vasant, who made me proud to hear what Bill Arvison had to say about him, and has overcome various tumultuous periods of his life to become arguably my most accomplished student thus far. Shami, the simultaneously soft and strong silent type. The ever correct and meticulous Ved. The sincere Jijo, my only PhD student from CMI. The effervescent and ever irreverent Madhushri, with her multifaceted talents, for all of which she somehow manages to always make time for. Panchu, who always brings a smile to one's face and is living testimony to the fact that constant bitching can transform even the scatterbrained speaker to one who can give beautifully planned lectures. Among people who are not my PhD students, but nevertheless always made me feel good about whatever I had contributed to their mathematical careers, let me mention Pramath and Balaji, whom I taught some representation theory of an evening at ISI Delhi many moons ago. Shiva, whom I taught some functional analysis, also many moons ago at ISI Bangalore, and who has grown into a multifaceted probabilist and is the co-author of my latest book on measure and probability. Amri, whom I taught decades ago at an MTTS program in IIT Bombay, whose parents still remember bringing him with a fever to write the ISI entrance exam and thanked me profusely for some trivial administrative role I played at that time, whom I later advised to come to IMSc rather than any other place in India when he was looking for a position in India after his doctoral stint in Chicago, which advice he followed much to the satisfaction of all concerned, if I do say so myself. And Sundar, who must be the manifestly most talented person it has ever been my privilege to teach, even if only for an MSc course and to guide his master's thesis. Kajal, who I hope gets his wish to work with some people who are experts on something he's interested in but that I know next to nothing about. And saving the best for last, a month after I joined IMSC, a fresh young colleague joined the institute and had a role next to mine. He was a commutative algebraist by training and at that time really did not know a one-Neumann algebra from a hole in the ground. That was before I diligently worked at changing all that. As a matter of fact, when both of us went some years ago for a conference on subfactors in MSRI at Berkeley, and when introduced to him, Soren Popa asked, this is your student Kodialam? While I sputtered and embarrassed, no, he's a colleague and collaborator. Vijay sweetly pitched in with, but effectively, yes. That was one of the proudest moments of my life. I wish them all a great future. Administrative support. While I've had some amount of administrative help in ISI, example, the typist VP Sharma at Delhi, or Sarvamangala and Dharmapa at Bangalore, such assistance must pale in comparison with the support I have had at IMSC. The administration here has been remarkably supportive and an unalloyed pleasure to work with. I must have organized 5 to 10 fairly large-sized workshops and conferences here, which have been conducted uniformly seamlessly and appreciated by all participants, and all reflect the quiet efficiency of the administration. It will take too long to name all the individuals who have cheerfully and efficiently made it all possible. But even at the risk of offending some people by omission, I must single out some individuals who have helped me immeasurably in such ventures. Ramesh, Munusami, Murali, Rangaswamy, Charles, Johnson, Parthiban, Ahmed, Indra and Vishnu Prasad. And in more recent years, when my mobility has been going steadily downhill, the entire institute has been unimaginably and immeasurably supportive. I have lived like a Nero wolf with 20 Archie Goodwins. I would sit in my room and just need to make a call or send an email, and my needs would be delivered at my office. It might be Pandian sending me a library book or journal, or Babu scanning some document for me, or Johnson or Ahmed sending some papers from the office, or Ravi, Vasan or Mangal responding to an SOS for help required to offset my totally electronically challenged nature. I cannot begin to express my gratitude for the support and assistance I have been cheerfully extended by everyone here, who has slowly and steadily built IMSC into possibly the most barrier-free and accessible institution in the country. What used to be meetings held in the director's office all got gradually shifted to the new building, with Balu himself insisting on holding such meetings in the new building, in view of the non-existence of an elevator in the old building. I used to crib about the state of the potholes in the guest house side of the campus, the steps in front of the institute building and Ramanujan auditorium, the walkway from the main building to the library building. But all those are things of the past. I have to thank many people for this happy state of affairs, but again, let me instead just thank one, but for whose support none of this would have come to pass. Thank you, Balu, for making this place a model of accessibility, and which has given me the strength to shout from the rooftops through my journalistic sorties in the Times of India that this is being done here and can be done anywhere if only there is a sensitivity such as in your administration. Family support. I have been fortunate to have had the benefit of an academically inclined as well as a socially aware family background, which has clearly contributed non-trivially to whatever I may have achieved in life. But again, let me just single out 3 people, the 3 women in my life. My mother, some of whose taste and aptitude for music, as well as uncompromising work ethic, have, I would like to believe, rubbed off on me. Radha, the effervescent center of my hopes and dreams. Thanks for taking the trouble of coming all the way down from Manipal in the middle of your exam season. And Sita, who has always been there for me through thick and thin, maybe more thick of late, I'm afraid, and has been a pillar of strength for me to lean on, quite literally very often. Finally, let me thank this room full of friends who have come from far and near to give me a day I will cherish for long. Zeph from Berkeley, Masaki from Kyoto, Ravi Bapat and Ajit Iqbal Singh from Delhi, Mahendraji from Indore, Muruganantham from Bhubaneswar. And from Bangalore, Kalyan, Gadadhar, Shiva, Pati and Gail. And from CMI across town, Pramad, Shiva, BV and Rajiva. And dear friends who had wanted to be here but were unable to for a variety of reasons, Juan, Fred, Uma, KRP, and Shama, Shobha, Somesh, and so many of my current colleagues whom I have not had the time to single out by name. My life has been enriched by contact with all of you. I thank you all from the bottom of my heart.